to say first.
Thanks, Mary Beth. Hey everyone, welcome back to another live community classroom with Michaels. Today we have Mary Beth with us ready for another exciting class, and today we'll be making the basic crochet ribbed family hat. My name is Lillian from Your Inspirations, and I'll be helping with any questions you might have during today's class. Feel free to ask questions in the chat here, and we'll be sure that Mary Beth answers them. All right, over to you.
All right, well, here we go. This is a really simple hat to make. So we're just going to chill this evening. I'm not going to torture you with 800,000 new techniques. We're going to make the smallest hat. But one of the things that we really like about this pattern is it comes in a variety of sizes. So there's a child size, there's a little teeny size, there's an adult size. And I'm going to talk to you in the class about how to customize for a size that makes you happy. So let's go over to the tabletop, if you would, and let's make our little hat. We're going to switch to the other camera. I hope. There we go. Let me put a little light on the subject here. I have to rearrange the lights so they're basically up my nose when I'm doing the introduction part. So this is, again, a pretty easy pattern. So we're just going to go over the basic stuff before we get started. So I'm using the gray rag Bernat Softee Chunky. Softee Chunky comes in a gazillion, I've almost said flavors, comes in a gazillion colors, so you can use whatever color you want. But we like the gray rag because it's pretty easy to see on camera too. And as I said earlier, it comes in a small child, a larger child, and an adult size. So the first thing we're going to do is make a chain, and I'm going to make the very smallest size. I don't want, my rows to be so long that I don't get to the end of the row before the class is over. So the first thing I'm going to do is start my slip knot. I have my tail yarn on one side. That's the side that's cut. The yarn that is attached to the skein is the working yarn. I'm going to pull up a fold 4 to 6 inches from the end. Actually, I lied. It says leaving a 24-inch or 61 centimeter long end for seaming. So instead of pulling up my fold here like I normally would, I'm going to pull up my fold about 24 inches from the end. Now, if it's 25 or 23, is that going to matter? No. The reason we're having you do this is because there's a seam in this hat. And if you use a nice long tail at the beginning, that's one fewer end to weave in later. You won't have to add a piece of yarn to do your seaming. So once again, though, my cut end is the tail. The side of the yarn that's attached to the ball or skein is the working yarn. So I'm going to do a twist. I have my tail on top. I'm going to reach through from the back, grab the working yarn and pull it up and give that tail a little tug. That's going to give me my slip knot, which I'm going to put on my crochet hook, which I will tighten up by putting a little pressure on both sides. I don't want it too tight. And remember that when you are starting your crochet chain, that slip knot does not count as a chain. It's just there to get us started. So we're going to chain. Again, you can go through and you may notice on the Yarn Inspirations patterns, we have all the sizes color coded. So you know if you want to make this size, that is the color, that sort of burgundy color is the color you're going to do, or the gold color for the middle size, or the green color for the large size. So you can follow along and just read the numbers that go with the pattern size that you want to make. So remember, for a chain, we're bringing our yarn over from back to front, pulling it through the existing loop on the hook. So that was chain 1. That's all there is to chaining. Bring that yarn over from back to front, pull it through the loop. That was 2. So we're going to go again. I'm going to go until we have 23. You will go as far as you need to go for your particular pattern. $17, $18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it says 1/2 double crochet in third chain from hook. So what I like to do is work in the back or the bump of the chain. It gives a neater edge. And I do this for all of my projects, not just this hat. But let's take a look at that for a minute. A lot of us were taught that we were going to go in through the front or the V. And when I say the V, I mean here. See how when the yarn meets at the bottom of the stitch, it looks like a little V. If you follow my nails, that's the front of the chain. The back of the chain has these little bumps. So most of us, when we learn to crochet, we're taught to go in the front or the V. But if you go in the back or the bump, you have a neater edge. So we're going to do that. Now, if you have been crocheting for a long time and you want to go in the front and that's what makes you happy, then you go ahead and do that. There are no crochet police, especially here at Michael's. So we're going to half double crochet in the third chain from hook. So I'm going to yarn over, always from back to front, and crochet to start my stitch. I'm going to go in the third chain from hook. So that's the first, that's the second, that's the third, and I'm going to go front to back through that bump. Yarn over and draw up a loop. I now have 3 loops on my hook, 1, 2, 3. And when you're using a big fat hook like this, you want to make sure that you get your stitches up onto the fattest part. If you work too close to the throat, you tend to work tightly, which is not pleasant. Then we're going to yarn over and draw through all 3. So that is all there is to that half double crochet. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook in the back or bump, yarn over, draw up a loop, making sure to get it up on the fattest part of the hook. We have 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. We're going to yarn over and draw it through. So we're going to do that, let's see, 15 times. So it's half double crochet in the third chain from hook, and then do that 15 more times. And then let's see what's going to happen. All right, so that was 1. That was the first one. Now we're going to do 15. So that was 1, 2. Now, those of you that are used to crocheting over your tail yarn, you don't want to do that on this project. Again, the reason we're not doing it on this project is we want to use that nice long tail to seam it up later. You know, in the interest of time, I don't think I'm going to do a whole row. Let's see how many I have. My turning chain, and then I have 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 5 is 13. That works. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to work in my whole chain, just in the interest of making a shorter row. So when I have done the number of half double crochets that I need to do, whether that's 15, 19, or 22, depending on what size you're doing, it says single crochet in each of the last 5, 6, or 7 chains. So in my case, it will be 5 because I'm doing this small. So we have 1. So remember, for the single crochet, there's no yarn over. You're just inserting your hook in the stitch, yarn over, draw a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. So that was 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, you'll be at the end of the chain. I just have extra chain because I literally on the fly decided I wanted to do a shorter row so that we could move a little more quickly. So it's telling you you'll have 21, 26, or 30 stitches. And what's going to happen, you're going to see your half double crochets are a little taller than the single crochets. So now we're going to, let's take a look at the bottom. So here's my foundation chain because I worked in the back of the bump. You see how neat and smooth that is? So it's going to be very easy to seam in later. And for any kind of project, especially if you're doing a scarf or something, this gives you a really nice edge that more closely mirrors the top. And it's also a little more elastic than a regular foundation row in which you go in the front. Lillian, do we have questions? It seems like the chat's going by real fast in my peripheral vision. So do you want to ask anything before I move on to the second row?
Yeah, there was just a question here from Kathy. She asked, don't we chain one before the single crochet?
No, and the first time I read the pattern through, I thought the same thing. So that is not, I had to read it a couple of times. It's half double crochet in each of next 15 chain, period, 1 single crochet in each of last 5 chain, looking at the smallest size. But if you glance at it, which I did, it does look like chain 1. So there is not a chain 1 in there. There's not a chain 1 till we turn the row. I'm just about to make one. But I completely see where you thought that, because honestly, I did exactly the same thing the first time I read through the pattern.
Thanks for that. We have one other question here before we jump into the next bit. There's a question asking, when you go into the back bump, are you going into the bump 1 thread only or into more?
I'm going into the bump one thread only, because a chain has 3, we call them legs, right? It has 2 legs in the front and 1 leg in the back, or bump in the back. So if I go through this bump, and I'm just going to pull it up here, that's how I get that nice little edging. So I'm leaving 2 unworked. I'm going just through the bump. And again, if you go on to do like Tunisian crochet or anything like that, being able to do that is super, super helpful. But I do it for everything. I can't think of a pattern in which I would not go in the back or the bump, given the opportunity. All right, I'm going to move on to the second row. So it says turn. And remember, after it says turn, where it says 21, 26, 30 stitches, that's telling you how many you have. That's not telling you to do more. So it's letting you know how many stitches you should have, so you can count if you need to count. And we're going to move on. So we turn to the work, and now we're going to chain 1. So there's my chain 1. Now it says working in front loops only. Single crochet in each of first 5, 6, or 7 single crochet, and then half double crochet into the horizontal bar created below stitch in previous row. And we're going to look at that, so don't panic. So we're going to do front loop only on the single crochets, and that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So here's my front loop. There's my back loop. And I made my chain, and that's just to get up so I can start my next row. So I'm going in the front loop only, and I'm going to single crochet in each of the first 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one good way to help you while you're stitching, so that you're not, so you're not having to count all the time. If there's a single crochet, you're going to single crochet in it. If there's a half double crochet, you're going to half double crochet on it. That helps you. The 5 stays consistent until the end. But I worked in the front loop, so it looks like it normally would on this side. But if you look on the other side, you can see that ridge. And that's just to add some visual interest. So we're not going to worry about that for just now. So we did our 5 single crochets. Now, here's where it says work half double crochet into horizontal bar created below stitch in previous row. Bars below loops normally work. See diagram. Repeat from start to end of row and turn. So here's the deal. These 2 loops that are on the top of the stitch, the legs of the stitch. So normally we would go in here, right? Or if we were going front loop here, or we were going back loop here, we're going to look for the bar beneath it. Let's see, which is this guy. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to ignore those top 2 stitches, and we're going through that bar from the bottom to the top. I'll do it again, so don't panic. Yarn over and pull it through. There's my 3 loops. Yarn over and pull it through. all three, that's my half double crochet. So I'm ignoring, my goodness, hold on. I'm ignoring the 2 loops that I would normally, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I had a little sneeze there. I'm ignoring the 2 loops that I would normally work in, and I'm going through the horizontal bar below. So I'm yarning over, and I'm going through that horizontal bar. It's this bar right here. It's under those 2. Oh my goodness. It's under those 2 normal legs of the stitch. Go into the next guy. You know, I hate to do this. Please don't punch me out, Yarn Inspirations friends. I think that rag is too hard to see. I'm just going to grab another color real quick.
Of course, it's no problem, Mary Beth. If anyone has any questions in the chat, now's a perfect moment to pop them in.
I'm sorry, you guys, I never do that, but honestly, that was going to make us all crazy. And we're supposed to be having fun. We're not supposed to be crazy. So I'm going to just, and I'm going up a hook size so you can really see what's going on. So give me 2 seconds to get this row caught up. That was going to just blow my mind. Never a dull moment here at Michael's. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll do one more half double here. Well, at least you can watch me frantically crochet a row. And then here's my 5 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, the more I try and rush, the harder this goes. 4, 5. So then I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to single crochet in the front loop only of the first 5 single crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's see if this is easier to see. I think it will be. So we're going to yarn over to start our half double crochet like we normally would. There's the 2 legs or the 2 loops that are to the top of the stitch where we would normally work. We're going to ignore them. We're going to go for this horizontal bar right here. That horizontal bar is going to make that stitch flip over. So I'm going bottom, from the bottom up in that horizontal bar. So I'm not changing how I'm making the stitch. I'm still yarn over, go through the stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. I'm changing the placement. So the half double crochet is made the way it normally would be. So once again, I'm going to yarn over. See that horizontal bar right there? I'm going to go bottom to top under just that bar. And I'm going under that bar. And so what's going to happen is those loops that form the stitches where we would normally go is going to make a decorative ridge on that other side, similar to the front loop only, but not exactly the same. And I also know from reading the note at the beginning that that chain 2 at the beginning of the row does not count as a stitch. So when I get to my last half double crochet, I'm done. I've gone to the end of the row. I'm going to ignore that chain. We're going to pretend that's not there. And at the end of this row, we're going to turn and chain 2. 1, 2. So let's look at the other side. See, here's my ridges. You see what I mean? And because what's happening is those stitches that form the top, they're folding over. And folding over is what is making that decoration. And then here are my single crochets, which again, because I did them in the front loop only, you can see that nice decorative ridge. Is that better, you guys? Can you see it better in the solid color? I just think it's easier on a bigger hook in the solid color. How we doing?
Yeah, it's much easier to see the blue yarn. We've had a few people comment that they're finding it a lot easier to see.
Good.
There does seem to be a little bit of confusion between where we do half double crochets and where we're putting the single crochets. And I wonder if you could just explain perhaps the hat's construction that might help us visualize it.
Right. So what's going to happen? Let's look at the picture. All your single crochets are up here. And all your half double crochets are down here. So when you are crocheting a piece of fabric, we're gonna really go to town with the samples here. So here's my hat, and I'm crocheting this way. And what's going to happen, because the single crochets are not as tall as the half double crochets, your piece is going to start to do this. It's going to be shorter on the single crochet side and taller on the half double crochet side. And that's because the half double crochet stitch is taller than the single crochet stitch, and we're stacking them up. The singles are already always on top of the singles, and the half doubles are always on top of the half doubles. So your piece is going to be shorter on one side than the other. And you need to not worry about that. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. So when I make my hat, here, let me fold this up a little bit. So my piece is going to be more narrow at the top where the singles are and wider where the half doubles are. So when I make my hat, I'm going to gather this up at the top to tighten it up. I can put my pom-pom on there if I want a pom-pom. And I'm going to sew this into a circle. But this is, if you were making a hat, if you were crocheting a hat from the bottom up, this is where the crown decreases would be, if that makes sense. So this is going to fit across the crown of my head because it's less fabric. And this is the part that's going to go around the circumference of my head. And since I promised I would talk to you about other modifications, if I wanted more brim or for the hat to be a lot longer, where I would, you know, a lot of times, again, if you're working top down or bottom up, you can add rows. But if you wanted a longer or a shorter hat for this hat, you would adjust your chain because your foundation chain is here. Do you know what I mean? It's at the, it's here. So here's my shorter stitches at the top and my longer stitches at the bottom. So this piece is short because I had fewer chains. If I wanted more fold up, if I wanted more of a brim, I would add chains at the beginning, and I would keep the number of single crochets at this side of the row. I would keep them consistent. So our smallest size, it's 5. Our middle size, it's 6. Our biggest size is 7. Again, if I adjusted the chain, I would keep that 5, 6, or 7 consistent. And then that would give me more or less brim to turn up when the hat is on a body. Does that make sense?
That is
I'm
great.
going
Thank
with
you very
yes.
much. Yeah, no, sorry, I just took a moment to mute myself. Thank you, that helped a lot.
Okay, so moving on to the third row, we turned our work and we chained 2. Remember that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. We're going to ignore it. Work half double crochet in the horizontal bar. So the same thing, you see our horizontal bars are down here. You're going to ignore the 2 loops that you would normally work in and work in this crossways bar, this horizontal bar. So there it is. There's 1, 2. And again, your piece is going to be much bigger. I went shorter so I could get more rows in so you could see what I was talking about. Yarn over, bring it from the bottom up on this horizontal bar. See how I'm coming from the bottom to the top? Yarn over, draw it through. Yarn over, draw through 3. And again, if you're working on a great big hook like I am, you know, make sure that you're bringing it all the way up. There's my last horizontal bar. Now, again, to sort of read your stitching, to be intuitive, you know, for the small size, you have 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I get to 5, I'm done. But the other way you're going to know when it's time to switch from half double to single is because singles don't have a horizontal bar, right? So if you're cruising along and you're watching TV or you're playing with the dog or somebody in your household is calling you and you forget where you are and you don't feel like counting, the time to switch to single crochet is when you run out of horizontal bars because there aren't any there. So you can't go get crazy like, oh my goodness, I have to work in the horizontal bar here. There isn't a horizontal bar to work in. But alternatively, you can just count back from the end. Well, I know I need 5 on the smallest side, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my 5. I know that I'm done with my half double crochet. And then it says, let's see, chain 2. We did that. Working in front loops only, single crochet in each of last 5 for my size, whatever size you're doing, single crochet. So again, front loop only. So we have 2 loops and we're just going in the front 1. And we're just making a single crochet like we always would. Just had to pull up a little more yarn here, guys. So then it says repeat last 2 rows until hat at widest point. So at the half double crochet side, measures 17, 18, or 19 inches, or between 43 and 48.5 centimeters. So there was the end of my row. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to do my 5 single crochets, or however many you're supposed to do for your size. 1, front loop only. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and in case anybody's curious, this is still Bernat Softee Chunky yarn. I went to a bigger hook. You see how loose that is? I wouldn't use a hook this big if I was actually making a hat. But I think for the purposes of you guys watching at home to see what's going on, I think the bigger hook made life easier. So just because I went up to a gigundous hook does not mean that you have to. So there was my 5 singles in the front loop only. And now I'm doing my half doubles in the horizontal bar. And then when I get to the end, when I get to that chain 2 at the end, I'm going to ignore it because it's not a stitch. It's just making a little decorative edge on the brim. Honestly, once you have, and you'll see, I'm going to just sit here and put a few more rows on this and answer any questions you guys may have. After you get a bunch of rows on this, it's really easy to see where you're supposed to be. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I have to count my half doubles because I don't remember how many I had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 4. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm missing 1. There's my last one. See my horizontal bar? The one at the end is a little tricky to see. It's very close to that chain. But again, it's a fine thing to count your stitches in the row like I just did to make sure you don't lose one. Now on this side, we're going to chain 2 turn, or turn and chain 2. Look for those horizontal bars. And in my case, I know I have 5. You're going to have far more than 5. 1, 2, 3, pull up some more yarn here, 4, 5, and then there's my 5 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my singles are front loop only. So you can see already what I was talking about earlier, how this side is wider than this side. And again, this exact swatch that's in my hand is a little loosey-goosey because I went up so many sizes in the hook size. But this is the brim side, and this is the crown decreases at the top. So how are we doing for questions, Lillian? I'm going to get a few more rows on this just so the pattern becomes more obvious for people to look at.
Awesome. Yes, we do have a couple of questions here. There's one here asking, did we lose 2 chains from the first row when we get to the second row?
You lost chains, but not stitches. So if I chained 23, correct? And again, I'm talking about the small size. This works no matter what size you're doing. And my first stitch was in the 3rd chain from hook. And I'm reading that note on pattern that says that chain 2 doesn't count, then yes, I chained 23, but I have 21 stitches. Does that, I don't know. I folded up my other piece of paper, so now I don't know if it works for the other sizes, but it should. Right. So in this instance, I chained 28. I have 26. So yes, you absolutely lost 2 chains in that first row. And that's exactly how it's supposed to be.
Okay, and there's another question here from Mandy asking, is the horizontal part of the stitch also the same part of the stitch that is the 3rd loop on the half double crochet?
Yes. If you have taken a class or done a pattern and you have been taught to call it the 3rd loop, it's the same spot. Because it's I don't want to say it's a new technique, but it's a less common technique. Some designers call it horizontal bar. I do, and Your Inspirations does, but some people teach it as the 3rd bar. So yes, if you have taken a class on do a pattern and you were taught 3rd bar, it's the same technique.
Okay, and then we have, are you ready for a few questions? Sorry.
Sure, go for it. Like I said, I'm just trying to get some rows on here so that the pattern is more obvious. I am sorry, guys, that we didn't have the sample today, just it didn't get here in time. So sadly, I did not have time to make a whole hat before we started class tonight. So
it's okay.
I want to get some more rows on here so you can see what's up.
Yeah, perfect time for question time. Okay. We have a question here asking if you would mind showing where the horizontal bar is again.
I do not mind at all. Let's take a look. So here's the next stitch that I'm going to work in. There's my 2 loops on the top, right? I'm going to ignore them. And some people, it helps them to realize that they're going to turn away. They're going to turn away from you. If you sort of fold it like that, there's that horizontal bar. It pops right up. You don't have to fold it like that. It's going to do that on its own. But if you think about creating fabric that way, sometimes it's easier to see. Otherwise, not these guys, not the ones that are involved in the top of the stitch, not the ones you would normally work in, but the one that goes side to side beneath it. And you're always going to bring your hook from the bottom to the top, never from the top to the bottom. So we're going to yarn over to start the stitch. Find that horizontal bar, it's right there. Go under from bottom to top. Draw up a loop. Yarn over and draw through 3. And again, I'm coming to the end of the row in which I started with half double crochets and I'm ending with single crochets. I've run out of horizontal bars, so I know it's time to switch to single. I know in this instance, I have 5 at the end. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets. Now I am looking at the top of that stitch where I normally would. And I'm working in the front loop only for the single crochets, because once again, you can't do a horizontal bar in single crochet because a horizontal bar doesn't exist in a single crochet. There isn't one in there, that third bar. Lillian, do you have anything else? Now's a good time.
I have one, but it's going to require a little bit of maths. We have a question asking, we've had 2 people actually asking how they could adjust the pattern for a worsted weight number 4 yarn and what you would recommend to do there in terms of the hook size.
I would get the hook size that was appropriate for the yarn. So I know for me, for example, if I use a number 4 or worsted weight yarn, I tend to use an H or a 5mm hook. So for me, if I was using worsted, I'd grab a 5, whether or an H. Whether that is the right size hook for you depends on how tight or how loose you stitch. And then let me see. I do need math, but just for 1 minute. Okay, you ready? Let me show you how to do this. This is listed as an intermediate class, so I don't want to scare off the beginners. But a lot of people, when I do this kind of back of the envelope math, a lot of people were never taught how. So for me, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this gauge on the original pattern, and I'm going to look at the stitch gauge because I need the length, right? For me to do this in another yarn, I need to know how tall that piece of fabric needs to be. Is everybody with me so far? So I'm going to look at the gauge on the original pattern. I'm going to say it says 8 single crochets is going to get me to 4 inches. And I know that I have 21 stitches. So back of the envelope math, what I personally would do is 8 times 3 is 24. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want a multiple of 4 inches and a multiple of, I want the stitch multiple that's in the stitch gauge. And I know it's not quite 24 inches or, sorry, 8 single crochets 3 times, which is 24 stitches, would get me 12 inches. But I didn't do 24 hole stitches. I only did 21 hole stitches. So I'm guesstimating that that piece of fabric, instead of being 12 inches long, is going to be maybe 11, right? So in my mind, that's 11 inches long. So if I get my worsted weight yarn out and I get my hook out, now, honestly, I would probably tell you to do a gauge swatch, and then you would all probably laugh at me and say, no way, Mary Beth, we hate gauge swatches, and it's a small hat. The hat is the gauge swatch. So I would chain till I got to about 11 inches, and then I would go from there. I would increase the number of single crochets, possibly by 1, just so that my crown decreases aren't too short, and I would experiment. I mean, again, honestly, I would do a gauge swatch. I know I'm going to say that, and everybody that's listening to class is going to be like, heck no. But again, it doesn't seem to be a huge gauge difference. So I would chain until I got to 11 inches, and then I would go from there and see how it went. If I was doing the bigger size, let's see, how many stitches are in the bigger size? 30. So I would go 24, 28 plus 2. So I would say, how many times does 8 go into 30? And the answer would be 3.5 times. And then I would take 3.5 and multiply that by 4, which would give me 14 inches. So for my biggest size, I know that I want my piece of fabric to be 14 inches long. So I'm going to chain till I get to about 14 inches long. And again, I would increase the number of single crochets by 2 or 3 just to keep those crown decreases nice and flat. So I hope that didn't terrify all of you that don't care about hat math, but that's how I would do it. And then really at that point, you could do this in any kind of yarn. You could just do the math from there. I hope that made sense. Do we have any questions like that, or I get to breathe easy?
Uh, we have one more that maybe you can help with because it's related, just about how to make the hat size slightly bigger. The adult hat size as it is for a circumference of 21 to 22. So if we wanted to make it for someone with a larger size head, say 26 inches, what would we do there?
Keep working more rows. That was really all you would have to do, because the number of rows that we work informs the circumference. The number of stitches that we work informs the height. So if I want it longer, I'm going to add to the foundation chain. If I want it shorter, I'm going to take away from the foundation chain. If I want more circumference, I'm going to work more rows. And if I want less circumference, I'm going to work fewer rows. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Easy peasy.
Yup. We have some time left. So again, I saw somebody asked about the finishing, which I'll go over real quick, but I'm going to just once again put just a few more rows on here so the pattern becomes obvious while you're looking. And I know that there are people that are super into things like hat math, and I know there are people that are really not. So for those who are not, I'm sorry I bored you.
Give them a little chance to catch up, so it's okay.
Well,
good stitching
Lillian
time.
likes to keep me hopping too. When Lillian is my yarn inspirations buddy, she really likes to ask me hard questions and make me get the pen out. The number of times that I've had to scribble on my paper backdrop because Lillian asked me a hard question.
It's not me. I'm just a messenger. It's our lovely audience asking you the tricky questions.
So again, it's a little tricky to find that last horizontal bar. Make sure that you're counting your stitches, that you're not running out. You want the same number of stitches in every row. And what I was talking about, so that you can see, if you look at this super close, you can see where those chain 2 are that we're ignoring. They make this little scalloped edge, but it's just decorative. You don't have to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to look terrible if I skip those chains. It's not. And again, trying to keep your stitches consistent, trying to get it so that it looks like you worked in the horizontal bar when you were just working in a chain stitch, that's really hard. So it's easier to just ignore them and call it an edging. There's no reason to make this harder than it needs to be. The other thing, if you had worsted yarn and you want to just follow the pattern blindly, you could always double it up and use the bigger hook. Lillian and I were talking before class today about what a great holiday gift this would make, because you can make them so quickly in the chunky yarn. Three, four, five. Really, I am having a heck of a time counting today. I'm going to just finish this row and we're going to talk about finishing. And then if you want me to torture you with more math, you can ask. So I was at a yarn show a couple of months ago, and somebody, the person whose booth it was very busy, which they were happy about. They were so busy, but they couldn't help somebody. And she was trying to do that hat. It wasn't a hat, it was a shawl, but she was trying to basically do that math. And I sort of whipped out my phone and did it on the calculator. And she said, you know, I'm thrilled you did that for me, but if you don't explain to me how you did it, I'm never going to learn. So I was talking about, you know, gauge relative to length and all this other kind of stuff. But you don't ever ask me that question if you don't want to know the answer. So let's look at the stitch pattern a little bit. So here's what I was talking about. It is wider at the bottom. And again, your piece is going to be, you know, yo long. It's wider. This is the part that goes around the fat part of your head. This is the part that gets gathered up in the top, and you want less fabric up there. You want to be able to gather that nice and flat so that it fits around the crown of your head, right? But the other thing I want you to notice, one of the cute things about this pattern, so you have your decorative ridges on this side. You also have your decorative ridges on the other side. So when you flip your brim up, it still looks cute. You know, sometimes what happens is that you know, you do a nice pattern, you flip the brim up and it doesn't look so nice on the other side. So since this pattern is pretty much reversible, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about finishing. Let me find a yarn needle. You're going to need a yarn needle and some scissors. So when I get finished with my hats, it says end on a second row. Oh, heck. Well, I didn't, but we're going to wing it. So I'm going to cut my yarn at the top. And once again, I'm going to, it doesn't have to be 2 feet. It doesn't have to be 24 inches. But I want to leave a good amount of yarn up here. I'm going to use it to sew up. And if I use this piece that's already attached to sew up, then I don't have to add a piece of yarn. It gives me less ends to weave in. So I'm going to pull my cut end through that loop, give it a tug. So we have 2 things that we have to do to finish the hat. So I'm going to grab this tail yarn from the end, and I'm going to thread it right onto my needle. And it says weave yarn through short side of hat, single crochet rows, and gather top of hat together securely. So all I'm going to do is and again, your piece is going to be so much bigger than this, but I'm going to go up near the top, and I'm going to take, and you want a big fat yarn needle for this. You don't want a little skimpy one. You can do a bent one if you like. Some people like the bent ones. And I'm just weaving in and out of the single crochets that are on the very edge. And I'm going in and out, in and out, in and out. And once again, the work will be a little tighter because you're going to use an appropriate hook, not the gigundous one that I used. So when I get through my whole piece all the way around, I'm going to pull this through. And I'm going to pull it super tight. And now it doesn't want to go. Nope, that's the other one. We're good. Ugh, I threaded up the wrong one. I stink. So we're going to pull it super tight. And this is going to gather in on itself like this. You're going to have like a little circle at the top. And that's why we put the pom-pom on it, right? You don't want to see that little circle at the top. You cover it up with a pom-pom. We don't get excited. So to fasten that off, what I like to do is I like to go all the way back to the beginning and go under a couple of stitches. Just because, again, I want that to be nice and circular at the top as best I can. And while I never tell you to pull super tight, I am going to tell you to pull super tight on this because I want that to be nice and sturdy. I don't want my hat to fall apart. So you can see I did a little back stitch. I went under and just under a few more stitches. And now I'm going to take it to the wrong side of the work. And I'm going to weave it in and out of a couple of stitches or go under a couple of stitches, just the way I would normally weave in any end. You know what I mean? And this is up at the top of the hat. You're never going to see it. But you do want to make sure that that work is nice and tight because you want to make sure it doesn't pull out. And then I'm going to trim that. And then I'm going to take that 24-inch piece of yarn that I had at the very beginning. And again, when I went to get the darker yarn, I didn't make it quite 24 inches. I cheated a little bit because I was trying to make sure that you guys were not looking at dead air for 20 minutes while I grabbed the new color. I'm going to use that to stitch up my seam. And if I'm super clever, let's see if I can make it go. So here's the end of the row. Here's the beginning of the row because I went in my backer bump, so the two edges look the same. So I can just whip stitch them together. But if I'm super clever, here's my ridge, and here's a row without a ridge. So I would know that this row would have a ridge. So for this instance, and you don't have to do this, this is super crazy because I'm nuts. I'm going to go through both sides of this one, and I'm just going to sew under the front loop of the other one so that ridge matches. So I'm going under both legs of this one and one on this side. And again, I did not count my rows properly because I was rushing a little bit. When you count your rows properly, showing doing the number of rows that they tell you. Let me just put a couple stitches in and you'll see what I'm talking about. So what I was trying to say, see, it goes ridge, nothing, ridge, nothing. So when I sewed it, I made that ridge. So now look, when you're wearing this hat, you will never ever see that seam. You will never ever see it because it looks exactly like all the other sides. So to make the pom-pom, you can wrap it around a piece of cardboard a million times, or you can wrap it around your fingers, is what we show you in the diagram. Or I know Michael sells some pom-pom makers. You could always use a pom-pom maker. Or, you know, some people like to get the faux fur ones and put those on the top. Just a cute little something on the top, because that is going to cover up that little circular gather that we made. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and again, it's a little difficult to see because this is so tiny, but the reason it's smaller up here and wider down here, if I had, let's see, I don't have anything round. If I had my head in here, see how that now wants to lay flat across the top? So this would be the top center of my head, and this wants to lay flat because there's less fabric. You don't want a big gather up on your head. Also, for the person that was talking about head circumference or an extra large head circumference, be aware that even on the appropriate size hook, this stitch pattern has a little bit of elasticity. So you don't have to go too crazy. It doesn't have to be like exactly the number of inches that you need. It could be a little fewer and let it stretch a little bit. And then you could fold your brim up. And there's the world's tiniest basic crochet ribbed family hat. Do we have any more questions, Lillian, before we wrap it up?
We do have a couple questions.
Go for it.
There's a question here from Bethiana asking from back when you were stitching, does it matter if we chain the two and then turn, or turn and then chain two?
No. It is a pattern writing convention. Yarn Inspirations does turn and chain two. Other companies do chain two, turn. It doesn't matter. What you want to do, particularly if you're a beginner, get in the habit of turning the row the same way every time, just because it looks neater. You don't want to turn half the time this way and half the time this way. You know what I mean? But no, that's just, it's a pattern writing convention. Some people prefer to say different things. So chain two, turn, turn, chain two, same deal. When I, because I'm going to flip my brim up, when I weave in this last end, I'm going to do it on the side that would normally be the right side of the work. I don't want to weave it on this side and then turn it up, because if I weave it in on this side and turn it up, I might see it. So for that bottom, that very last little bit, I'm going to weave it in on this side, just a little bit. Make a little tack stitch, make a little knot to make sure it doesn't come undone. And then I'm going to weave in on this side. I wouldn't weave all the way up on this side because it might show, but for that bottom couple of inches that I'm going to turn up into a fold, I would totally weave it in this way. And then again, I don't know about you guys, but when I do a seam that you can't see, I just feel so clever. I feel like, boy, I'm the best stitcher on the whole planet because nobody can see where that seam is. I find it very gratifying. And then when I have my cut end, I don't want it right on the edge. I don't want that little puffball to fray out. So you'll see I went up and down, 3 times. Doesn't have to be 3, just away from the cut end or away from the brim end. So now I wove in here. This is the right side of the hat up here. But when I fold it up, it all disappears.
Oh, so cute.
All my stuffed animals here and my daughter's little statues, they all have hats from all the hat classes I have taught here for Michael's. Do we have anything else before we wrap it up?
I think we are all underway. Lauren says, thank you so much. I need to make a matching scarf now.
Oh yeah. Now, if I was doing a matching scarf, I would just do the half double crochets in the horizontal bar and just make it, that would look really cool. You don't need to switch back and forth from single crochet to half double because you don't want your scarf to be shorter on one side than the other, right? So I would just do the half double crochet horizontal bar in rows, or you could do the single crochet front loop only in rows, but do one or the other. Don't switch back and forth if you're going to make a matching scarf, because you want the width to be consistent all the way up.
Wonderful. I think that's us. Lots of lovely thank yous from everyone in the class there.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to see you guys. I'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much, Mary Beth. And thanks
All
for
right,
joining
bye-bye.
us. Sorry. Thanks for joining us today for this live community classroom with Michaels. Don't forget to share your work with hashtag #MakeItWithMichaels and hashtag #YarnSpo. And just a reminder that you can find more classes on michaels.com and the recording of today's class at michaels.com/classes. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. And thanks again, Mary Beth, for a fantastic class.
Bye.